An amusement park is supposed to be the safest kind of chaos. Laughs, lights, and just one more ride. But in rare moments, a single bolt, a single gate, or a single decision turns that happiness into something unthinkable. Today we're counting down 10 real amusement park tragedies, cases where a normal day of fun ended in panic, sirens, and silence. And we're starting with a disaster that happened in front of a line of families, in broad daylight. Case 1. The Ferris wheel gondola that fell, Rosario, Argentina, 2013. It was supposed to be a simple Saturday outing in Rosario, Argentina. The kind of day families remember for photos, snacks, and sunburns. Two girls, one 14 and the other 12, came to the park with their families, drifting from stand to stand, cooling off with ice cream and pointing at the biggest ride in sight, a massive Ferris wheel locals ground the bubble. If you've ever been in that line, you know the feeling. Everyone's craning their necks, watching the cabins move slowly above the crowd, imagining the view from the top. The girls asked. Their parents agreed. They joined the queue, right beneath the wheel, surrounded by other visitors who were waiting for the exact same fall. Then witnesses described hearing a sharp bang, followed by scream-on gondole. In seconds, it dropped for 20 meters, not drifting, not sell. The cabin hit the ground with devastating force right near where people were gathered. Chaos exploded. Some froze, some ran. Others rushed forward, not even thinking, just moving on instinct. Emergency services arrived quickly, but the scene was already beyond what anyone at an amusement park is prepared to see. The two girls who had been standing below were killed. Several others were injured, some seriously. Afterward, the questions were immediate and angry. How does a gondola fall off a Ferris wheel? Reports around the investigation suggested the ride had shown problems not long before the incident and had been returned to operation. Whether the repairs were adequate or whether warnings were ignored became part of the controversy that followed. Months later, legal consequences reached park leadership, with charges related to negligence and fatal outcomes. But for the families, the legal language couldn't touch the real reality. Two children walked into a park expecting fun and never walked out. And that's what makes this case so haunting. Ferris wheels are the safe rides, the gentle ones, the ones you put kids on when you don't want anything intense, which means if this can fail, then every ride starts to feel different. Coming up next, a teenager steps over a fence for something ridiculously small, just a hat, and that one choice collides with a ride moving at highway speed. Case 2. One step past the fence and the ride didn't stop. Six Flags, Georgia, 20. If Case 1 proved that family rides can turn deadly, this one proves something even scarier. Sometimes the danger isn't hidden inside the machine, it's waiting on the other side of a fence people think they can ignore. For June 2008. Six Flags over Georgia is packed. Sun, crowds, screaming roller coasters, and a group from a church trip trying to squeeze in as many rides as possible. Among them is 17-year-old Lee, often reported as Lee Ferguson, excited, laughing, doing what teenagers do when a park feels like freedom. They decide to ride Batman the Ride, a suspended coaster where your feet hang in the air. It's fast, loud, and it whips through tight turns so close to the structure that VL50M and the ride ends. Everyone unclips, steps off, and starts talking over each other. That was insane. Let's go again. And then Ferguson realizes something. His favorite hat is gone. It sounds stupid, right? A hat. Something you can buy again, something you should let go. But if you've ever had a "no, I need that" moment, you understand the impulse. He looks down and spots it, somewhere below the track, inside a restricted area. Now here's the line that matters. That space is restricted for a reason. Roller coasters don't just pass by, they slice through those zones with phones up coat. But for reasons we'll never fully understand, panic, pride, tunnel vision, Ferguson climbs the barrier. A tall fence, meant to stop exactly this. He goes in. Down there everything feels strangely calm. You're under the track, and the roar of the coaster fades for a moment. He searches, focused on one simple mission: retrieve the hat and get out before anyone notices. What he doesn't realize is that the ride cycle keeps moving. A new train has been dispatched, and coasters don't have eyes. They don't see a person on the ground. They don't hesitate. They don't brake because someone made a bad choice. A train comes through at highway speed. There is no time to react, no time to run, No time for a second chance. The coaster strikes him and he dies at the scene. Witnesses describe the aftermath as instant silence followed by screaming, because nobody expects a theme park to become a crime scene in the space of a heartbeat. The park shut down the ride, and the story spread fast because it hit a nerve. How can something so small lead to something so final? And that's the real horror of this case. It wasn't a haunted house kind of fear. It was the fear of human impulsiveness, of a single moment where the brain says it'll be fine, and reality says no, it won't. Next up, still at Six Flags, a worker steps into a place he shouldn't be, and a rider's foot turns into a fatal impact. Next up, still at Six Flags, a worker steps into a place he shouldn't be, and a rider's foot turns into a fatal impact. You'd think the scariest thing at a theme park is the ride itself. Speed, height, spinning metal. But sometimes the most lethal moment happens underneath, where guests never look, and where one person being in the wrong place at the wrong time is enough to end a life. This happened in 2002 at a Six Flags park. It wasn't a visitor chasing thrills. It was a 58-year-old maintenance/cleanup worker doing what he'd probably done 1,000 times. Moving through the park, collecting trash, keeping the place clean so families could enjoy their day without thinking about what happens behind the scenes. According to reports, the worker entered an area beneath a roller coaster track, a zone that typically should be controlled, restricted, and kept clear while trains are operating. Exactly why he was there at that moment is the question that never fully stops haunting this case. Was he rushing to finish a task? Was he following a routine he'd done safely before? Or was there a breakdown in communication that left him exposed? Above him, a roller coaster train was running as normal, fast, loud, and designed to skim close to structures for that near-miss adrenaline effect. On one of the seats was a 14-year-old girl, riding, screaming, laughing, caught in the rush where you forget the world exists beyond the harness. Then a tiny action became the trigger. She extended her leg outward. Most riders have done little things without thinking, stretching a foot, shifting a posture, letting your body move with the ride. But on certain coasters, especially those with open or suspended seating, there's a reason you're told to keep limbs inside the ride envelope. Because the clearance is tight. Terrifyingly tight. As the train passed the section above the worker, her foot struck him. It wasn't a gentle bump. It was the impact of a moving ride, momentum and speed concentrated into a fraction of a second. The worker was hit hard enough to collapse immediately. People nearby heard the commotion and looked around in confusion, because from the outside, nothing looked wrong. The coaster kept moving. Riders kept screaming. The music in the park didn't stop. But on the ground, it was a medical emergency. Staff and first responders rushed in. The area was secured. The worker was transported in critical condition, but he later died from injuries consistent with severe trauma. Reports often describe internal damage leading to fatal complications. And this is what makes the story so unsettling. It wasn't sabotage. It wasn't a dramatic mechanical failure like a train derailing. It was a chain of small failures: access, timing, safety zones, and human habit, all colliding with the unforgiving physics of a ride in motion. After tragedies like this, parks usually tighten procedures: locked gates, stricter clear track protocols, better communication between operations and maintenance. But the question still hangs in the air. How did someone doing their job end up directly under an active coaster path? Because the truth is, amusement parks are not just rides, they're moving industrial machines. And when routine turns into complacency, the park doesn't feel like a playground anymore. It feels like a factory with music playing over it,